we start our service this morning, which will not include joys and sorrows and concerns, I need to ask that we observe a moment of silence while we send our prayers to the family, friends, and loved ones for Tyle Nichols. May we be in a serious time of silence. Our call to worship, a prayer for the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, is by Rabbi Emily Langowitz. Source of life, deep well of being, be with us now as we mark this day, the dread it brings and its sacred power to compel us. Help us to hold our sorrow and our resolve in equal measure. The arc of the moral universe is long, we know, and sometimes it bends backwards. So we must turn it and turn it and turn it again, striving ever onward toward a world built on justice and free from shame. Comfort us, compassionate one, in our sorrow for what has been lost. Strengthen us, rock and redeemer, in our work to find it once more, and give us hope that our nation and its laws might once again reflect that each of us are creators in the divine image of our Creator, able to speak our truth into being, able to shape our words as we choose, free to name, to imagine, to discern what is good, what is good, what is very good.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing number 170 in your gray hymnal, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
We are
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. I'm Jim Cavanaugh, lay liturgist, life member of UCH, and part of the worship team since it was invented. I share leadership of today's service with Aaron Sykes, Barb Pierce, lay liturgist, and our guest speakers, Sue Frietsche and Tyler Gillett, who you will meet later on. In the spirit of transformative power of community in all its forms, I'm happy to welcome you to UCH. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Whether you're a member or a visitor joining us in person or virtually, we are so happy you've chosen to join us this morning. For our worshipers online, a Zoom online coffee hour will follow services starting at 11:30. For those in person, we will have the coffee hour in person in the common room downstairs. We're happy you've chosen to join us today, and we welcome you to our fellowship hours and any other in-person or online activities held by UCH. And now please join in the reading of the unison affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Today's chalice lighting comes from Reverend Molly Brewer. It's called A Chalice Lighting for When Things Aren't Okay. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you, that everything is okay right now, that there's no reason to be angry, that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I won't tell them to you. But now our chalice is lit, and so all I ask in this moment is that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. By the light of this chalice, let us rest in this love. Our story for A Time for All Ages is a book entitled, I Have the Right to Be a Child. However, I'm adding to this and saying we all have a right to be a child or a grown-up. This is by Alan Serez. I am a child with eyes, hands, a voice, a heart, and rights. I have the right to have a first name, a last name, a family that smiles at me, and a country that I can call my home. I have the right to have enough food to eat and water to drink so that I can grow. My favorite thing is an orange. You can eat it or drink its juice. I have the right to live under a roof, to be warm but not too hot, not to be poor, and to have just enough of what I need, not more. I have the right to be cured with the best medicines that were ever invented, and to run and jump and climb and shout. It's so wonderful to feel good. I have the right to go to school without having to pay, so that I can learn how birds or planes or poppy seeds fly. I have the same rights whether I am a girl or a boy. Boys and girls love to sing the same songs. I have exactly the same right to be respected, whether I am black or white, small or big, rich or poor, born here or somewhere else. I have the right to be helped by my parents, my friends, and my country if my body doesn't work as well as other children. I have the right to be free from any kind of violence, and no one has the right to take advantage of me because I am a child. No one. I have the right to go to school and to refuse to go to work. I'll choose a job when I've learned everything I want to know. I have the right to be protected by adults and to be sheltered from disasters under a great big umbrella, whether there's too much rain or because of other sad things. I have the right never to experience the storm of war or the thunder of weapons. I am afraid of guided missiles and smart bombs. I have the right to breathe clean air, and that's as pure as the blue sky or a newborn polar bear cub. I have the right to play, to create, to imagine, to make faces, and to leap around, and also to have friends, because dancing alone isn't always very much fun. I have the right to learn about friendship, peace, and respect for our planet, and for each human being that lives on it, for each animal that inhabits it, for each plant that nourishes it. I have the right to express myself completely freely, to say what I truly think about everything, even if it doesn't always please my dad, to say exactly how I feel, even if it doesn't always please my mom. I have the right to all these rights just because I am a child, especially if I live in one of the 193 states in the world that have agreed to the Convention on the rights of the child. When will all children everywhere really have their rights respected? Tomorrow? The day after tomorrow? In 20 years? We need our rights to be respected now, today, because it is right now, today, that we are children.
We bless you on your way. May you feel love every day. May your light shining bright transform the world. Now we bless you on your way. May you feel love every day. May your light shining bright transform the world with love.
This sanctuary that we create together is a container for all of our stories, the ones we share and the ones we hold close and quiet in our hearts, the stories that bring us joy and fulfillment, and the stories that break us open, the stories that change and grow with us, and the stories we outgrow and leave behind. Each and every one of you carries a lifetime of stories every time you enter this space. This morning, there may be stories from your life that surface in unexpected ways. I would like to invite you into a ritual to hold space for your story, whatever it may be. And if you need support after this service, please do not hesitate to reach out. As I light a series of candles, or Barb and I light a series of candles for the different paths we have taken, if you recognize yourself in one of these prayers, I invite you to put your hand over your heart, wherever you are, and know that you are not alone. There is someone else in this gathered community holding their hand over their heart too. And then when the prayer is finished, please read the congregational response on the slides. I light the first candle for those whose story includes the choice to end a pregnancy. The circumstances vary. The timelines of our lives are diverse, but each and every end is also a beginning. And so I light this candle for all who have aborted a pregnancy or partnered someone in an abortion for whatever reason, under whatever circumstances. May the beginnings and endings of our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance.
I light the second candle for those whose story includes the unwanted loss of a pregnancy or a struggle with fertility. The circumstances vary. The timelines of our lives are diverse, but the pain of infertility, miscarriage, and stillbirth are too often held in silence. And so I light this candle for all who have traveled this path of loss for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance.
May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the third candle for those whose story includes the choice to give birth. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the choice to bring a new life into the world is a powerful one. And so I light this candle for all who have given birth or partnered in the birth of a child, or those who have adopted a child birthed by someone else, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance.
I light the fourth candle for those whose story includes the choice not to conceive or have children. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the freedom to chart the course of our own reproductive life is sacred. I light this candle for all who have made the decision not to conceive or bear children for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance.
May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. I light the fifth candle for those whose story includes a forced choice, or no choice at all, or who have encountered violence where there should have been tenderness and care. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but not everyone has been in the position to control their own reproductive choices. I light this candle for all who have found themselves unable to exercise their own sacred reproductive freedom, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. The beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance.
I light the sixth and final candle for those whose reproductive story is still being written. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the future unfolds in surprising and unexpected ways that can be both beautiful and heartbreaking. And so I light this candle for all who are at the threshold, who have agency and choices still to make about their reproductive lives, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance.
May the flames of these candles and the many stories they represent remind us of the fire of commitment we carry inside, to ensure that all people have freedom and agency over their reproductive choices, and that reproductive justice is upheld as a fundamental right for this and future generations.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. We are attorneys with the Women's Law Project, a Pennsylvania-based nonprofit legal organization with offices in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. We've worked since 1974 on protecting and expanding reproductive rights and legal protections for women, girls, and LGBTQ people. There are many challenges facing Pennsylvanians since the fall of Roe v. Wade last summer. The forces aligned against reproductive rights and bodily autonomy have been emboldened by the Dobbs decision. The Supreme Court's holding in that case overruled nearly 50 years of precedent and reliance and essentially determined that simply because the word abortion never appears in the Constitution, there must not be a right to it. Justice Alito, who composed the majority opinion, wrote that the right to an abortion is not deeply held in our history and tradition, by which he meant the history and tradition laid down by dead, rich, white men. Abortion is still legal across the Commonwealth, but it is under threat. In the last legislative session, members of the General Assembly put forward a constitutional amendment to remove any right to abortion in Pennsylvania. Once that right is gone, it opens the door to complete criminalization or Texas-style citizen vigilante bans. The process to approve a constitutional amendment requires that it be passed in 2 successive legislative sessions before going on a ballot before the voters. And it looks like this amendment does not have the votes in Harrisburg to get on the May ballot. That threat, at least, is dormant for now, but we must remain wary. A different proposed constitutional amendment to make it easier for the state legislature to disapprove proposed regulations is still very much in play. And even though this amendment doesn't look like a power grab by anti-abortion legislators, it is. It could make it next to impossible for Governor Shapiro to reform Pennsylvania's outdated and extremely burdensome abortion regulations. The fact remains that abortion opponents want to end legal abortion in Pennsylvania by any means possible. After the Dobbs decision, many states rushed to ban abortion, with the procedure being outlawed in 14 states as of today, and the question of legal abortion is at the mercy of the courts in others. But the foes of reproductive rights are not resting on their laurels. Instead, they are launching attacks to restrict bodily autonomy and personal rights across the country. They have initiated a lawsuit to try to force the FDA to rescind its approval for mifepristone, the drug used in medication-only abortion. Mifepristone has been used in America for nearly a quarter century now and is an incredibly safe and effective method of early abortion for millions of patients across this country. The lawsuit against the FDA, which was filed in a court in Texas, seeks a nationwide injunction to remove mifepristone from the market, which, if successful, would severely limit the drug's availability in Pennsylvania. We expect a decision in that case as early as February 10th or 11th. The movement to attack reproductive rights and bodily autonomy is nationwide. The freedom to decide whether one will have a child and when and how is at risk and has been for a long time, especially for people from poor and marginalized communities. The abortion bans in the prohibition states will lead to an upswing in unwanted pregnancies coming to term, as 2 out of 3 people who would need to travel out of state for an abortion cannot afford such travel. Those who are prevented from accessing abortion care are more likely to suffer serious complications from the end of pregnancy, more likely to experience poor health for years after pregnancy, and more likely to end up living below the federal poverty line. Abortion bans across the country have repercussions for people seeking abortions here in Pennsylvania. After the Dobbs decision last summer, clinics across the state saw a surge in abortion demand because of people coming from out of state. Bear in mind, Pennsylvania only has 18 freestanding abortion clinics, most of which are clustered in the eastern part of the state. The Harrisburg region has only 1 abortion facility, which offers only medication abortion. All these clinics saw and are still seeing patients from places like Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, even as far away as Texas. This has at times had the effect of increasing wait times for appointments from days to weeks, which will lead to later abortions. It also is denying access to local residents, some of whom find themselves having to go out of state themselves to New Jersey or New York for their abortions. Abortion bans also have consequences for pregnant people who are not seeking an abortion. Where abortion is illegal or highly regulated, pregnancy itself is investigated and policed. For example, it's nearly impossible to distinguish between a medication abortion and natural miscarriage. In states that prohibit abortion, pregnant persons who lose their pregnancies will be viewed as losing those pregnancies under suspicious circumstances, essentially guilty until proven innocent. This increased scrutiny will almost certainly greatly impact communities that are already over-policed, including communities of color. And it's not just abortion. Justice Clarence Thomas telegraphed this in his concurring opinion in Dobbs, when he said the court should revisit its decisions in Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. These three cases protect the rights to contraception, same-sex sexual relations, and same-sex marriage, respectively. And they've already started, as they often do, by attacking the rights of minors. Another lawsuit, again filed in Texas, seeks to prevent family planning agencies funded through the federal Title X program from distributing birth control to minors without parental permission. The plaintiff in that case, a father of teenage daughters, claims the availability of contraception without parental consent violates his fundamental right as a parent to raise his children in a Christian manner, meaning they are to be abstinent until marriage. But because birth control is available with no questions asked, there is the possibility that one of his daughters will seek it out and engage in premarital sex. Based on that sheer possibility, this father wants to end the entire minor contraceptive program. The attack on bodily autonomy began with abortion, but it does not end there. In fact, many of the best minds in reproductive law and policy believe that it will take only 2 to 4 years for the US Supreme Court to overrule Griswold and eliminate contraceptive privacy rights for all of us. And these are just some of the challenges facing us after the fall of Roe. Now I will turn it over to Sue Frietsche, Executive Co-Director of the Women's Law Project.
Thank you, Tyler. I hope we have not broken your spirits entirely yet. My role in this presentation is to talk to you about reasons to hope, despite the very desperate and very serious threats that Tyler just outlined. And there are actually, I completely believe that there are many very compelling reasons to hope. And I'm going to outline just 4 of them now. There are many more than 4. So first, our understanding of reproductive rights has changed radically since Roe. It is broader, it is deeper, and it is significantly far more inclusive than it was back in the 1970s and then in the 1980s and then even the 1990s. Roe was based on a right to privacy, a right to be left alone. And it did not recognize that in our society, resources are extremely unevenly distributed. And many people need assistance in order to obtain reproductive health care, and leaving them alone is not actually that helpful. So Roe was more helpful to the privileged than those who were not. We now have the chance and the obligation to rebuild the legal foundation of reproductive autonomy rights on a more equitable platform informed by the principles of racial justice and gender equality. And that is what we are doing. Second reason to hope. We have tools that we are only just now starting to explore and learn how to use. Largely, they are state-based tools that were neglected for decades while we were fooling around in the federal courts. We are awaiting the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's ruling in Allegheny Reproductive Health Center versus Department of Human Services. That is a Women's Law Project case challenging Pennsylvania's Medicaid abortion coverage ban. And I need to note that the Unitarians have been extremely helpful in this litigation and have submitted with other faith-based organizations an amicus brief that I found moving and extremely compelling. If this case is fully successful, and it might not be, we could lose, but if this case is fully successful, then we will have won not only the restoration of Medicaid coverage for abortion care, but also an explicit acknowledgement by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that our state constitution's Declaration of Rights does cover reproductive autonomy, and that will be a tool like we have never had before. It will be, it has the potential to be better and more powerful than Roe on the state level. We also have tools coming from perhaps an unlikely source, our Pennsylvania General Assembly. So I find hope in the fact that there is a new presumptive majority in the Pennsylvania House that includes a young and very, more than ever, diverse cohort of freshman legislators, and they are on fire. They are radically committed to reproductive freedom and reproductive justice and rights for LGBTQ folks. There is an energy there and a passion and clarity of mission that we have not seen. And I have enormous hope for this group of incoming state legislators. My third reason to hope is that there was no red wave in the midterms. This showed us that when we fight as hard as we can win. So every state in November to consider an abortion question on the ballot voted resoundingly for abortion rights and reproductive rights. California, Kentucky, Michigan, Montana, Vermont, and before that, Kansas. And I'm not saying that this was an easy strategy, and I desperately hope we can avoid fighting an anti-abortion constitutional amendment in Pennsylvania. The cost of these ballot initiatives is sickening. The cost in money and time and labor, but we proved definitively that it is possible for us to win even in states that are not thought of as particularly progressive. We can win. Fourth reason to hope. We are seeing our opponents making massive strategic errors. Perhaps they're so giddy with their victories that they are getting careless. They're overreaching. They're not just trying to regulate abortion in a reasonable way. That is what we heard for decades, right? There is no more stealth about their goals anymore. They want to control all reproductive and sexual conduct. They want to police pregnancy. They want an absolute and rigid gender hierarchy. They're coming for birth control. They're relying on the Comstock Act from the 1800s, that old-fashioned anti-obscenity law that was used to suppress sexual and reproductive health information and healthcare. So the deep misogyny that underlies the anti-abortion movement at its core is no longer veiled. It's right out there in the open. And it is our duty to call it out clearly wherever we see it. People of faith formed the backbone of the movement that liberalized abortion laws in the 1960s and 70s. And you have literally been at this for decades and decades, and you're being called to lead again. I know this group is sophisticated and connected and informed and active, and you do not need me and Tyler to tell you what to do. But there is one thing I would like to emphasize, one particular need that sometimes gets underappreciated, I guess. It is of great practical importance that everyone you know understands that they can come to you if they need help. You're safe to talk to, you will help them find help, whether that help is a ride to a clinic or money or a defense attorney if they're being prosecuted for some reproductive crime that should not even exist, whether they need help finding out how to order abortion medication online. We at the Women's Law Project want to be a resource for you, and you are absolutely invited to tap us for that purpose. As the opposition becomes more coercive and more controlling and more punitive, it is of profound importance that you show yourself individually, in your private life, in your workplace, and collectively in every space you inhabit as an ally and a trusted resource for people in trouble. I thank you for the chance for Tyler and me to talk to you this morning and be a part of this beautiful service and this loving, courageous, and powerful community.
The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, a freely gathered church of free people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by you. Each month we share half of our Sunday plate with a local nonprofit organization. For the month of January, UCH will be sharing the plate with Susquehanna Harbor Safe Haven. Susquehanna Harbor Safe Haven is a residential facility offering support and stable housing to men who are chronically or were chronically homeless. It is managed by Christian Churches United of the Tri-County area. For those who wish to contribute online, please see the email with the link for today's service or visit uchbg.org homepage for options for contributing. For those who are here in the sanctuary, the collection plates will be passed around by today's ushers. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
Spirit, and join us in singing number 1030 in the teal hymnal, Siahamba. Siahamba kukanyan cuencos, Siahamba kukanyan cuencos, Siahamba kukanyan cuencos, Siahamba kukanyan cuencos, Siahamba, Siahamba kukanyan cuencos, Siahamba. We are marching in the
benediction is by Reverend Karen Johnson, minister of the Unitarian Society of Brunswick, New Jersey. We Unitarian Universalists, who have long been known to be a bit too much of our heads, in our heads, have been moving toward a more authentic recognition of our bodies, a more genuine relationship with our bodies and in our bodies. Hallelujah and blessed be. These bodies are homes. These bodies are being. These bodies without which we neither have inherent worth nor recognize it in others. These bodies without which we cannot experience the interdependent web of all existence, for it is through our bodies that we are part of the self-same web. Let us pledge ourselves, the whole of ourselves, to the great collective liberation of all bodies. Let us pledge ourselves, the whole of ourselves, to do the all we can to protect against gendered violence against all bodies, known and unknown, near and far, stranger or friend. Let us pledge ourselves, the whole of ourselves, to inhabit these bodies, to honor these bodies, to celebrate these bodies, and to defend these bodies. So be it, see to it. Amen.